Okay, folks, we're about to start the show with Mr. Abel Rodriguez, our political contributor, and of course our co-host, Mr. Jesus Bautista. So we're going to go live or on the show after this. Good morning, everyone. We are live here at No Vision Internet Radio. We are broadcasting both on Facebook and YouTube live on YouTube, and we have the audio live on our website, which is www.novisioninternetradio. And today, in the first part of the show, we have our co-host, Mr. Jesus Bautista, and we have a special guest, surprise guest. It's Abel Rodriguez, our political contributor. Mr. Abel, just so the people who don't know, who are new listeners. He is a gentleman that introduced me into this atmosphere of podcast and whatnot. He started his career in KBIA, and he went to Channel 26, and then just recently he was on 1060 AM on the daytime on Fridays. Mr. Abel, good morning, sir.
Good morning, George. How are you? Can you hear me?
Up there. Yeah, I can hear you now. I'm sorry, you broke up there. Hey, Mr. Bautista.
Good morning.
I'm here. Good morning.
Well, folks, today we're going to be talking about, first, start off with the theme of courses on the news right now. Matter of fact, this morning, right before we came on, I was talking to Mr. Bautista. The new numbers today is 589 new infections. As of Thursday, that's 2,144 individuals that have been new diagnoses, and that's a lot. That's a lot of people, guys. What both of you? Because I mean, both of you are considered, the most vulnerable population. Also, me. So, I mean, what does that number mean to you, both of you?
Well, gosh, to me, it's a serious situation. You know, we're like ahead of Dallas and some of the other bigger cities, and I think we were ranked number 2 in the nation as far as per Rachel. And it's a serious situation. I don't know how much you can say to the population here in town. They need to stop going to the bars and to the restaurants. And if they don't, they need to find the individual, not the restaurant. Find the individual, at least $500. See how they like that, because it's not fair to the rest of us that have to stay home.
I mean, you Abel, you've been, because you've been in the media in the past, and I mean.
Well, I was given a COVID-19 report for 94.3 super. Well, not Super Estrella anymore. It's Latinx 94.3, and I would do it every day, and I'd go early to the site, and the numbers weren't updated. They wouldn't update the numbers till like 7 o'clock in the morning, which doesn't help if you're trying to get information out to people that are trying to go to work. So I have a problem with the numbers. I believe it or not, I think they're much higher.
Oh yeah.
Juarez is reporting, what I consider minuscule numbers of people infected when there's 1,200,000 sitting over there on the other side of the border. My zip code is now one of the top 3 in the city.
Wow.
Oh, you're in 03?
Yep. Do you think that a lot of the numbers are going up because maybe we got quite a few people coming in from Juarez and they're infected and they're staying? Do you think maybe that's
wow? That's a very good point. That's a very, very good point, Jesus. I mean, it could possibly be, because let's face it, we don't even know what's happening on Fort Bliss. They were cut off from having to report by the government.
True.
So, I mean, the numbers are the numbers. The thing is that what scares me is I saw George posted something on Facebook about asking Bob Moore if it's true that there was only very few ICU beds available. And I remember Bob Moore responding to you that he didn't think that was true. Well, that same evening in the news, they're reporting that there was only 9 ICU beds left in the whole county.
Yep.
Well, yesterday, Abel, they were reporting that they were bringing in people from other parts of the state because they were, like in Harris County, they don't have any beds, and some of those other places are, so they were bringing them to El Paso. And I'm thinking, don't we have enough of a problem here?
Well, you make a very good point. Honestly, if you think about it, we're one of the largest cities for small communities in the region. We have the best healthcare. We have the best hospitals. I mean, hey, if I'm in TRC and I get hurt, I think I'm going to want them to drive me all the way to El Paso.
No, you're right. and the thing about that is what Mr. Bautista was saying right now is that when he said about us being ahead of Dallas, as of this morning, folks, we are surpassed Dallas in active cases. So, wow. I mean, because yesterday we were at 7399, and then we had 589. So that's 74. So we're close to 8,000 active cases here in El Paso. 8,000. That's a lot, folks. I mean, and then like you said, Mr. Abel, I think the number is higher because people are asymptomatic or they just don't want to come or they whatever reason. I mean, might be scared but I mean, that's 8,000. That's a lot of people that are sick. And then, so let's do this, guys. Mr. Bautista, you used to be a teacher. So they say this because we had a friend of ours that passed away this week. Me and Mr. Bautista. She dies Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah. Well, I lost a friend too this week from
what did you?
Class of Cathedral 1976.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, she was only 62. John Downey, and
I'm sorry to hear that, Mr.
But still, I mean, it's 2020 has turned into the year of zero.
No, and what really gets me upset
but
is
we're turning the corner.
Go ahead, Mr. Bautista.
No, I'm just saying that, but the president says we're turning the corner. Which corner is what I want to know? I mean, I'm blind. I need to know which corner to turn into.
But what really gets me upset here in El Paso, we have these people that like this one guy. I call him out. His name is John Hogan on Facebook. He put on there about most of the people already have dead anyways, or you have other people saying that 5% is not, or 96% survival rate. People for those 4%. Those are people too, 4% is like, let's say, going back to what I was saying right now, 8,000 infections. So you want to take 5% of that. What is that, Mr. Bautista? Más o menos. Do you think? Because 10% of 8,800. So we're going to say at least out of the 8,000.
I'm going to go ahead and say it's un chingo.
Yeah, and that's why I hate when people say, "Oh, it's 4%." People, come on, just think about that.
It's okay until you're in the 4%.
Exactly.
And then that bullshit goes out the window.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. And then one more thing. Go ahead.
No, I'll tell you, it's exactly what Abel is saying. It's not. It doesn't bother you. It's just another number until it comes close to you. Like like I told you, I have a friend when that's she was dating my son and she caught it. Okay, and she's young. She's in her 40s, so she was able to recover, but her dad died. Her father died, and they both caught it. And it's really unusual that they both caught it. Nobody else in the family caught it, but he died. He was and by himself in the hospital without any. They can't see him. They couldn't. It's just terrible, and people think that's just another number. It's not. It's a human being, and we need to treat it that way. And especially,
and I've been out. Okay, guys, I have done business. I've been out, and so I have that hashtag COVID-19 Russian roulette. Hashtag COVID-19 Russian roulette, which is that's what you're doing when you go out. You're playing Russian roulette, and eventually, depending on how many people are that you're exposed to, one of those is going to be that bullet in the chamber when you pull it, and where you're going to go. And then after that, you're in a race about, like what you said, am I going to get it full blown? Am I going to I mean, I'll tell you what, man, I saw pictures on the net of people in ICU and they had them face down.
Yeah.
The way they were treating them face down. Yeah. Because less pressure on the lungs or something like that, having to do with comfort.
It opens up the air. Yeah. It opens up
breathing. Yeah. Just that little bit of angle, and it's like, who wants to go through that? and then get a bill for what, at least $80,000,
Oh,
$90,000.
easy. And by the way, folks,
Yeah.
whoever's watching on Facebook, you can go ahead and comment. I can show it on the stream if you want it. Go ahead and comment. Again, you're listening to No Vision Internet Radio with our contributor, Abel Rodriguez. So we're going to switch the subject real fast, folks, because we are, the second part of the show, we're going to have Mr. Calvin Zielsdorf. He is a candidate for the mayor's race. And right now, Mr. Bautista and Mr. Abel, I do want to talk about the new races, or the races that are currently being placed. And I'm actually, Mr. Abel, you brought up a good thing to me the other day about the numbers, the first day numbers. Can you comment, remind me about those numbers regarding the turnout?
I have to apologize. I didn't do my homework, but I do know that the first day was about 18,000. It broke a first day voting, early voting record. And we'll talk about what the number means here in a little bit. The second day was still 16,000. So you can imagine what Wednesday and Thursday and Friday were like. So let's just say, we'll go between, we'll go on 16. 16 times 4.
That's a good number.
That's a huge number.
24.
Yeah. So
For El Paso, yes.
Yes, I mean that look. What have I been doing, George? You know what I do? I do the hashtag voter revolution.
Yes.
I've been doing it for over almost 2 years, and using that as a linchpin. And now, what we're asking is for people to go ahead and pull that linchpin, get that voter bullet that you have, and go pull the trigger in the polls. And it's happening. Now, here's the deal: early voting is 3 weeks long this time. It was only usually 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So what is going to be the number for early voting? We could talk about the number. We could say, what does the number mean? Does it mean we love you, Trump? Does it mean anybody but Trump? What are they doing in the mayor's race? What's going on in some of those races? You're going to have, I guess the guy's name is Zielsdorf.
Yeah, we'll have him the second part.
Right, and he's coming on, and he's in there with 5 other guys: Oscar Leeser, Carlos Galinar, Dino Martinez, Veronica Vero Carvajal, and Don D. But some people know him as the Don of El Paso, Margo.
Now, here on the No Vision Internet Radio Show, folks, just so you can know, go back to our Facebook page. We've had Veronica Carvajal, we've had Carlos Galinar, we've had Oscar Leeser. And of course, today we're going to have Calvin Zielsdorf. We've reached out to Dean Martinez, no response yet. And of course, Dean Margo, in my opinion, has not really done much. I think he's done a lot. He made El Paso worse, in my opinion. There is a mailer going out there, folks. I don't know if Mr. Abel was telling me this morning. I saw last night on Facebook.
Yeah. It's on Facebook. And it's very interesting that man, I lost it. Hold on.
Have you heard about this, Mr. Bautista?
Yeah, talk to him.
There's a mailer going out there, Mr. Bautista, that they don't know. It's called dark money, because they don't know where this person who sponsored this flyer. But it says, for example, our leaders are doing great. There's like new jobs. I think 4,500 new jobs in El Paso, and so they're trying to figure out who. Because by law, you're supposed to.
It's a Republican. It's got to be a Republican.
And then, of course, the P.O. box that came with the mailer, the P.O. box goes to a P.O. box in West El Paso. But they're trying to see, okay, who did this? And that's it's ethically not supposed to be doing that, because there's no, like, sponsored by XXX or whoever. But, I mean, people have said, I've heard maybe the Woody Hunt, or maybe that's what I've been hearing on Facebook. So I'm allegedly.
Well, it's a propaganda piece, no doubt about it. Yeah. Under Carmen Rodriguez, who is the wife of Senator Rodriguez, the state senator, it says dark money comes to El Paso in a blatant and offensive effort to sway your vote in favor of current city leaders Margo Rivera Hernandez. The elites with big money hide in the shadows. And like you said, the P.O. box came from the west side. And, it's our future is right around the corner. More places to go to, major events, destination El Paso. And and
Yeah. Okay.
it says El Paso, keep going and stay strong. You know, and it's so it's got El Paso. I can barely see it. El Paso goingstrong.com, I believe, is their website. El Paso goingstrong.com, and there you can see more propaganda and see what it is.
Yeah.
But the mail out, first of all, let's talk about the mail out. It's all color. That's a lot of money. It's a mail out. So it's direct mail, which is the most expensive way to try to deliver. But the one thing about direct mail is they say that it will always return you anywhere from 6 to 8% on
Mr. Abel, I have
yeah.
a comment here. I'm going to show a comment. What did the comment say?
Hold on, let me get back to where you at. I don't see it on mine.
It says, I'm false advertising. Savala, you're false advertising alive. So I'm not sure what that is, Mr. Jimian. We could go ahead and comment. I don't know what that means. I'm not.
Man, learn how to, can you express yourself a little better than that?
I don't know if I did something wrong.
Jump in, but let's face it.
What am I saying wrong?
You're not saying anything. I'm just saying, let's face it. Everything is not good. You ready to have the city bankrupt? What's our debt? What's our debt right now, George?
Over $2.3 billion. But like I said, folks, look. When I have people tell me I'm giving false information, I like them to be clear about it, because for me, the numbers I've said right now, the 2144, it's not a lie, because I don't know if that's what they're talking about. Thursday it was 717. Yesterday it was 838. Today is 589. You add them up together, 2144. So I don't know. And we're talking about.
Is she talking about COVID?
I don't know. Be more
specific.
Come on, that's fine. If you're gonna comment, just make sure. Just do me a favor. Do us a favor. Be more clear to our viewers. Yeah. We don't know what you mean by that.
A little vague.
Oh, just don't read it, George. If it's not legible, then you can't read it.
No, but it just doesn't. It didn't say enough.
No, I understand that. And that's why I want people to comment.
Read everybody, and once again, when you comment, that means that we said something that moved you to that action, because a comment is an action.
No, I hear you, but like I said, like we try to be non-biased here and give out good information. And when someone said that, and this is what I mean, going back to a post I made a few weeks ago, Mr. Bautista, I'm talking about this. I think I talked to you about Abel. People come out and just slander, just slam me for something. And like right now, she said,
welcome to the real world, George.
Well, and I respect that, but like I said, if you're gonna say it, because see, folks, the one thing that you gotta understand with me and Mr. Bautista and Abel too, we go off of trying to educate ourselves, and that's where the information that we do provide, we try to at least do a little bit of research. So when I say something, if I'm in error, please let me know, or Mr. Bautista. But when you say you're giving false information, that's it. I don't know what that means, and I want to be more interactive with you folks, but. Neither here or there. So let's go back to the mayor's office.
But it is an accusation, dude.
Yeah, it is. But I mean,
what can I say? But going back to the mayor's thing. Let's go back to that thing, because I think that's where the problem is that they're saying that the city is doing great. Well, it must be an outsider saying that, because we live here in town and we know better than that. I mean, come on, we know that we're in debt. Like I was telling last week, George, when we're paying $5,000, $10,000 for the use of the city hall so that we could use it, it's a walkway there and we can use that. We're throwing money away. So I'm not happy about the fact that we just splurge at the expense of the taxpayer.
That's a lot of money.
That's all we're saying is,
yeah, we're not trying to say, trying to. You know what it is, Mr. Bautista? A lot of times people, like Mr. Abel said right now, they don't want to hear the numbers because either they're candidate or folks, at the end of the day, it's your choice. Like Mr. Abel says, voter revolution. Whoever you want to vote for Trump, you want to vote for whoever. That's your choice. Our job here is just to provide you information. Now, we might give you information you might not like, which is fine. Like, for example, they say I like candidate X. And you say, well, this candidate X did this and this. I might not like it because it's true, but hey, what am I to say? Just make my vote. And, like they say, President Obama said many years ago, don't boo, vote. Don't boo, no, vote.
Absolutely right.
Right?
You know,
Vote.
and look, who's to say I bring that kid up from Northeast? I
Well,
mean,
look, folks,
that's
I mean,
what got on the ballot, you know?
what Abel's talking about is this young man, Shannon Nixon. As of Thursday, when I checked, he was still in custody. He was arrested October 2nd for theft of services. And that's not a lie. That is public record for you, Ms. Michelle Jimian. That is public record. So, I like I said, what I say, I do research on, especially when it comes to issues that are dear to me, like the ADA and whatnot. So I'm not sure what she was. Maybe that was it. I don't know. But anywho, but the thing is, we have all these candidates, folks, and it's up to you to go out there and vote. Like for the mayor's race, Dean Marco has not done much for us in regards to lowering the tax rate. Matter of fact, he's made it worse. We really haven't fixed the infrastructure. And then you have Oscar Leeser, he used to be mayor. You have Veronica Cabrajal, she's a lawyer, which may be an advantage, which I think. We have Carlos Gallinat, he's an urban developer. He's the one that when you make let's say a subsection of El Paso or subdivision, he's the one that develops that. And then we have Dean Martinez, he's the next Green Beret. And of course, this gentleman is coming down in half an hour or in the next 10 minutes. He's, I believe, a firefighter. So you have all these candidates who want to make a difference. So it's up to you to vote. And that's why you make your vote count. By the way, Mr. Abel, can you mention real fast about the express voting that you have brought up before?
Oh yeah, there's first of all, I want to commend the El Paso County Elections Department for being totally prepared and having good staff and moving the ballots around and whatever, everything that I saw. I took my mom down to the county building and we went over to their offices to deliver that she wanted to get a mail-in ballot this year. So we went and delivered, and I saw their staff was working hard. And then what did they do? They came up with a very good system, I believe, for early voting. And one of these things that they are doing that you should take advantage of, by the way, because there is hardly any line. You drive into the Coliseum with your car. You drive in, and then I guess you give them the information. They give you a ballot, or they might even give you a computer pad to mark all what you want to mark in. And then you hand it back, and you signed that you just like regular, and they give you the little stamp, and you're done.
Yeah, and you don't have to pre-register or nothing, Abel. And just real fast before I forget, I am going to forget. I have this in my head. If you go to Batson Center, folks, the parking area is in front of Boston. What is it called? The hamburger place. What is it called, Abel? That Boston Mike's. It's that restaurant.
Dave and Buster's.
Yeah, Dave and Buster's. The parking is right in front of there, folks. If you want to do the express voting, like Mr. Abel saying, so at Bassett Center, you go to in front of that Boston.
Wow, I didn't know they were doing it there. I missed that one.
Yeah, so that's what I called yesterday. And plus, for those who are like me and Mr. Bautista, who are visually impaired, which they could do if you go, let's say, like for example, myself, I go with my wife, they'll let my wife assist me in filling out the ballot. So there's a bunch of stuff to do it. So at the end of the day, folks, just go out there and vote. I mean, you have all these different avenues. You have mail-in ballots. You have express voting, but it doesn't mean nothing if you go out there and vote. And by the way, the numbers, like you said, Mr. Abel, the numbers look good.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
really good.
And I was going to ask you, Abel, those numbers include the mail-in? Because I voted mail-in.
The numbers do not include the mail-in. The mail-in starts to roll into the machine after 7 p.m. day of the 3rd.
Okay.
They're stored. They're stored. Yeah.
Abel. So
That's how I voted.
We only have a few minutes before Mr. Zielsdorf comes on.
Right.
We have like 5 minutes. Real fast. What district do you live in? You're in 2, right?
I'm in District 2. Yeah, that's Miriam, Judy Gutierrez, Alexandra Anelo is the incumbent, and James Arthur Campos, who I thought she was only running against Gutierrez, but
yeah, me too. And you know what? Last night I tried looking up his name, and nothing came up. Nothing came up regarding.
Well, there you go. I don't.
Anyways,
I'm not noticing that.
Who would you vote for? I'm
voting for Alexandra. I got to interview her. Actually, she's an interesting story because when she got first elected, she was in a terrible automobile accident with her husband. and
Yeah.
she went through a lot of stuff, and then would still be able to get back and be a leader and help District 2 and still do a great job. And also, not only that, but she stood up a couple times to the wall that be on city council. I mean, Rivera and Margot,
And that's what we needed.
Go ahead.
Yeah. That's what we need. It's the kind of people that are going to stand up. I was going to mention the fact that, I hate the fact that, sometimes we mention, oh, this guy was a Marine, this guy was a police officer. We shouldn't vote on what they were. We should vote on what they're doing now, who
What
they
are
are now. Because
exactly.
vote on that kind of a situation. That's why we don't have good representation. So, I mean, that's my point of view. And
you hit the nail right on the head, buddy. Right on the head.
I'll probably be voting for. I voted for Hernandez because she stands up to the Congress. I mean, to the mayor and all that. And that's what we need. We need people like that. We don't need people that just go and vote.
Right. I mean, I agree with you 100%.
What do you think of the influx of new the young blood coming in? Like, for example, and let's say, for example, let's start with District 7 is Aaron Montes, and then for District 4 is Wesley Lawrence, a young man, and then you have. So, what do you think of this new blood coming into the race? Because I think that's like I think one time we had talked about that, Abel, on your other show. By the way, Abel's he has a platform called Dialogue.
I've had Montes on too.
Yeah, Montes. Yeah. He has a dialogueep.com, and right. So Abel mentioned in the past that it helps to have young blood in the races because that shows that our younger generation is wants to step up. They're not just sitting at home. They want to participate in the process. Yeah.
Yep.
And they're creative, that we can't just go back to the same people that, just keep doing the same old. We need to bring in people who are creative and want to change the system. I mean, that's what we need to do,
Hey, and besides that, a lot of people who used to count on are gone now. I mean, you can only be a leader for so long, and then eventually gravity wins.
Yeah, we're coming up to the half point here. You're listening to No Vision Internet Radio with our political contributor, Abel Rodriguez, and our co-host, of course, Mr. Jesus Bautista. And we're going to do, folks, in maybe a minute or so, we're going to take a quick break. And after we come back, we're going to have Mr. Calvin Zielsdorf. He is a candidate that's running for the mayor's office. Of course, for the mayor's office, we have Veronica Carvajal, Carlos Gallinat, Dean Margot, Dino Martinez, of course, Mr. Zielsdorf, and of course, Oscar Lisa we had last week. No, Oscar Lisa we had 2 weeks ago. Last week we just had to reschedule. Mr. Zielsdorf was supposed to be on last week with Ms. Veronica Escobar, but we had to reschedule that. But he'll be on now right now. So we're going to do, we're going to do that. You're listening to No Vision Internet Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with Mr. Zielsdorf. We'll see you after the break. We are back here at No Vision Internet Radio. We are here with, of course, our co-host, Mr. Jesus Bautista, our political contributor, Mr. Abel Rodriguez. And of course, dialogueep.com is his platform. And I believe we have the honor of having Mr. Calvin Zielsdorf. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, sir. First of all, I want to see Mr. Bautista and Mr. Abel. Want to say hi?
Good morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Great.
Doing great.
Mr. Zielsdorf, very much. Thank you so much for being on our show. By the way, am I saying your name right, sir?
Zielsdorf, yes, sir.
Zielsdorf, okay. I want to make sure I want to say that properly. So first of all, sir, just so people that are watching and listening, by the way, we are on YouTube and Facebook Live and streaming the audio on our website, which is www.novisioninternetradio.com. So, Mr. Zielsdorf, can you please tell people who you are?
Yeah, sure, of course. My name is Calvin Zielsdorf, and I am running for mayor this year. Just a quick, brief history of myself. I was born in Germany to two El Pasoans that attended Eastwood, and congratulations, Eastwood, on that big win yesterday over Franklin. And we moved back maybe 3 months, after I was born, so I don't really much remember Germany. We moved back to El Paso. I grew up in the Northeast, the East Side, which is kind of more central now, and even the far East Side. I attended all of my schooling here. I went to Eastwood Knolls, Scottsdale, Tierra del Sol, and as well as Desert View Middle School. I graduated from Cathedral High School. While I was at Cathedral High School,
really?
I was a swimmer. I qualified for the Olympic trials while still in high school. I graduated from there, signed on with Texas A&M, swam there all 4 years, was a 4-time All-American. Also went to Olympic trials again in 2004. I came back and I wanted to serve my community, so I joined the El Paso Fire Department. Got my paramedic certification as well as my swift water and high angle rescue, rope rescue, among other certifications. And while I was in the fire department, I saw a lot of inefficiencies within our city government. I got really into politics in 2016. I got to do a lot of amazing things because of the fire department and it's the way it's scheduled. I got to go to North Dakota to help those protesters. Right before winter, I took up a bunch of blankets, gloves, socks, whatever we could find to help them, stay warm and safe throughout the winter. While I was there, I really got to see a lot of what was going on, and I was kind of shocked by the way our federal government treated those people, that were fighting for their right and their water rights, and really fighting for the environment of our nation. I showed up the morning I showed up that night that one of the protesters almost got their arms blown off, or really did pretty much by I believe it was a flashbang or whatever they threw at them, in the middle of the night while they were dousing them in water while it was close to freezing temperatures. And that was a big eye opener. Later on in that year, I went to Philadelphia. I took my grandfather on a road trip. We went up to go look at Mount Rushmore. We saw the Crazy Horse Monument, which I thought was amazing. And then we drove to Philadelphia and watched the DNC, and that was like, I felt like we were in a military state. The 8-foot tall fences and all the snipers and military that were there. I was it was definitely eye opening for me and mind opening. I came back, and I started attending the city council meetings, and I was appalled by how our own citizens were treated by the city council and our mayor. And I was really disheartened by every time there was a decision to be made after public comment, they would go into executive session and discuss whatever they're discussing with whomever they were discussing with. And then they would come out and always vote against the public comments. So that's what really got me motivated to run. I did enter the race a little bit late. Some unfortunate event called COVID happened, and so we all had to stay inside. But I decided to pay the fee up front, through my own funds, because I think this is a really good chance to bring change into our city, especially with everything that's going on. It's kind of throwing a wrench into the machine, and I think this is a great opportunity to bring some change into our city government.
Well, let me ask you this, Mr. Zielsdorf. So what's your platform? What's the main, for example, the budget? Because there's going to be a shortfall regarding for next year. Well, actually, for the next several years, regarding the budget. So, what's one thing that you can contribute, or your background that will help educate the voters to see, okay, what's his background to help us with the budget?
There's a lot of things that we can do with the budget, and there's a lot of great ideas out there. My idea personally, with my experience working in the fire department, I saw a lot of inefficiencies within that department that is repeated in many other departments. I think we need to not slow the attrition rate, pick up the attrition rate and get more citizens involved in serving their community, and at the same time taking care of them and educating them and how not only the city works but also how to react during emergencies. I think that would be a huge benefit to our city, especially as the years go by. Right now we have the current career path in the fire department is 24 plus years, depending on how long you want to stay. And, and I think we could, if we just change that to 8 years, we'd be able to help 3 families instead of just one. And I think that would really help build our community from within, make it stronger, more educated, like I had mentioned earlier. And that's definitely one of the things I want to do. And I think that would really help us save a lot of money within these departments. Again, these departments are very...
You mentioned...
I'm sorry?
Go ahead, Mr. Bautista.
Oh.
Oh, I think his mic might have got off.
I think he froze up. There he goes.
Yeah. Well,
No. I mean, the treatment that you saw as a fire department personnel when you went up there to the Dakotas, or how do you feel about? I understand what you were saying, but how do you feel about the police department in the city of El Paso, the funding of the city of the police department, and do you believe that maybe they all should have body cameras?
I think they should absolutely have body cameras, and I'd also like to increase the number of the crisis intervention team members. I think bringing in a fresh set of eyes, a fresh set of beliefs within the fire department would really help. Would really help the relationship between the police department and our citizens. I think, when you're stuck in an environment such as officers are, all they see is the bad times or the low times within people's lives. And so, after a while, you do start kind of growing a bias towards people, and because that's all you see. And yeah, they get their days off, but usually they're spending it with their family and doing their own personal stuff. But I think bringing in more fresh eyes and, like I said, a fresh background through those crisis intervention team members, I think that would really help relationships between our community and our police department. And at the same time, I think that we could also rearrange the police department, to help fund those members and get them on board with the officers and help them out.
Well, Mr. Zielsdorf, you being first of all, before we go any further, I want to thank you so much for your service. I mean, being a first responder, all of us, I bet, want to salute you on that, sir, because that's something that every day you go out there and encounter people that you don't know have the virus or not. And so thank you so much for that. You've been a long time El Pasoan. What's your point on, because, this is always said, especially the past 4 years, regarding the long-going issue or the long-lasting issue of Duranguito and the arena. What's your perspective on that, sir?
Let me just clarify one thing. I am no longer with the El Paso Fire Department. I left after 8.5 years on my own volition. I decided that it was time for me to move on. But I'm glad you asked that, because when I got on the fire department, I was originally stationed at Station 11, which is on Leon Street, which is in the heart of Duranguito. And as a city employee, I was, I really couldn't say much, but I did attend the original meetings among the community. And in all honesty, I voted for the arena, but I was heartbroken with how the city went about it and how they just destroyed a community that had been around for decades and that relied on them. I mean, that was their own little safety net. And, while I understand some people say that, you can't stop progress, I think you can always move forward with progress in a humane way. But I think the way the city did it was poor in taste and lacking in ethics, because they tore up a community that was so tight, so that's so dependent on each other. I mean, there were a lot of elderly people living there, and there are still some now. Yep. But you rip them out from what they know, and had to, they had to ship out somewhere completely different. And they, unfortunately some of them had to live their life in discomfort, and they didn't have that safety net that they were used to. And I thought that was a very poor decision on the city. And especially when we have a lot of space on the east side of downtown that could definitely help, spread the love throughout the entire downtown, not just the west side of downtown.
You make a very good point, Calvin. I'll call you Calvin because I'm class of '76 Cathedral High School, and you probably are a state swimming champ, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good, man.
I was a national championship as well in high school for the Eastern.
Wow, congratulations!
Thank you.
So did you know Leo?
Oh, yes, sir. I did know Leo. I joined EPAP when I was 12, and he was there, strong and vibrant and loud and very compassionate. I mean, that's where I get a lot of my drive from. And wow. I was at Cathedral when he passed away my sophomore year.
Yeah, Leo Cancelade was a very interesting individual, and a lot of people love that guy to death. And it was sad that he died so young in his life. But one of the things that I'm glad I'm hearing what I'm hearing, only because this is the same city that had no problem blowing up City Hall for a baseball field. Mm-hmm. There could have been so many. The whole thing about downtown, I get. I've been to Memphis. They got the baseball field downtown. Tulsa, they got the baseball field downtown. But the whole thing is that these kinds of enterprises running a convention center or having a baseball field are very limited possibility of making revenue because they're not used every day of the year. And sure, the sports group went into a covenant and they were supposed to have all that kind of stuff, but everything's really out the door because there are no hotel motel taxes happening right now, at least the way they were before COVID. There are the car rentals are dismal. The hotels are got to be probably at 30%. It's not a good time, and yet we continue on with projects that maybe some have been shut down. I was very glad to hear it, but I think they knew the writing was on the wall about shutting major projects down. My main concern is the people that they shuttered and are not coming back, because I'm almost positive that there's a restructure that's already in place on how they're going to get back to sort of normal after all the thing is over. What are your feelings on stuff like that?
I think whenever we get into agreements with these organizations that try to that do bring in like the Chihuahuas, I think we end up giving them the whole piece of the pie while we get the crumbs. And most of those revenues go out right out the window, right? They go out to a different city because that's where all the owners are. And while I understand that some of the some of our wealthy developers do give back to the community, like $5 million for the press box and at UTEP, that's very little compared to what they receive. And it almost seemed as if and I loved our old El Paso City Hall. I loved walking into that building. I thought it was magnificent. I liked how you had that huge staircase right away, and I just thought it was a really beautiful building. And I thought it was a waste that we tore it down, and now we're having to pay rent in the El Paso Times buildings. Like I said, I think there's a lot of inefficiencies on how this city is ran. I think there's a lot of self-interest, and I think that interest should be more towards the city. And while I understand that it does give us entertainment value, we had the stadium in the Northeast that could have been renovated, and it could have helped the Northeast with their businesses. I think our interests are just misled.
Well, let me have a question real fast. Abel, let me ask you a question, Abel, so everyone can kind of put this in perspective. Abel, he traveled with the UTEP Miners. He was a color commentator for the Miners football. Let me ask you, Abel. So when you went to different cities with the Miners, like for example the small cities and the big cities, did a lot of those have like baseball parks? And did you see that a lot of that sports activity?
But understand one thing, George. Conference USA is not Memphis. They left Conference USA. I wish we would go to Memphis. You go to small. What happens is you go and to communities that only have municipal airports. The miners charter a flight, and you land in these municipal airports. You go straight to a bus, and you're on the bus for 45, 50, sometimes up to an hour to get to the small community to be able to play the game.
Oh,
So,
really? Okay.
yeah, oh yeah, it's not a
Yeah.
it's not a glamorous thing, man. I mean, I enjoy doing the games because of UTEP Sports allowing me to be the color commentator in Spanish. I was able to go to Army, right? And you want to talk about just going somewhere because you're in Division One sports. It's a feeling like no other. That's why the sports are so important because you can see it when you go to these other things. I mean, I went to the Final Four 2 years ago. They didn't have one this year, and it's just amazing. And plus the money, man. I mean, the NCAA they took a beating when they didn't have the Final Four this year.
Oh, matter of fact, isn't it today's I don't know if you know this, Abel, you probably do. Today's game against Southern Miss has been postponed because of the COVID. Several players on Southern Miss tested positive.
That's what happens when you want to think that things are normal, because they're not normal. And I'd like to listen to Calvin's thoughts on the way the city has dealt with COVID, because I got to tell you, man, when our current mayor, I'm going to tell it like it is. The poor guy, 23 people dead at the Walmart, children incarcerated in cages in Tornillo, Texas. The president coming in and running over his head, even though he's a Republican. Not a very strong leader. I'm sorry. I'll leave it at that. But that's my opinion. I'd like to hear what you think of the way the city council has reacted to COVID.
If you don't mind, I'll just touch real quick on the sports, and then I'll address the COVID situation. Like I said, I voted for the 2012 bond elections. I thought the El Paso really needed a premier swimming facility, and we were going to get it. And then something happened where money wasn't, there wasn't enough money. So we got still a beautiful natatorium on the west side, and there's going to be another beautiful one on the east side. But like I've been telling some of my swimming colleagues, I went to Texas A&M, so I went to Kyle Field and I saw how beautiful that was. I mean, that's just a gorgeous stadium. And then they have a state-of-the-art natatorium there as well. And I got to go on training trips every winter trip, and we alternated between Florida and Hawaii. So I was definitely blessed in that aspect, because I got to go to those places not for free. I did have to work I had to be at practice every day, but that's something I wish our city would do. Open up those pools, and obviously not right now during COVID, but when things get a little bit more under control, we can definitely invite more schools out to El Paso to train here during the summer. I mean, we have beautiful weather. It's high altitude. I don't know why any school wouldn't want to come here, and that's definitely something I'd want to do. As far as trying to bring in more revenue through sports. As far as the COVID, I mean, they asked me in a forum the other day what I would give them if I could grade them, and I gave them a D. I think I would have to give them an F now, after everything's kind of exploding, and after we all heard that our mayor, allowed some weddings to go on, and special interest parties to go on, and it's like, that'd be great if they all went home and stayed in their own bubble, but they go out to these parties, they mingle. It's supposed to be a fun time. They're celebrating, they're all in close quarters. And then what do they do after that? They go back out into the public and, spread whatever they caught, and right now we have COVID, and that's something that just shouldn't have been allowed. And now he's blaming millennials, which is false. I mean, I think I read in the newspaper that I think it was the ages between ages 29 and 40. So that, that's not just millennials. That's a lot of the majority of our population right now.
Yeah, adults.
Yeah,
adults, man. Jesus.
So I think that was kind of short-sighted on Mayor Margot's on Mayor Margot, and he should have had a little bit more foresight in seeing how everybody else was doing in the world, and how some cases were picking up in Europe and everywhere else around the world.
I just think
What about the clusters? Though they voted to not let us know where the heavy clusters of the COVID was, and this is also the city reps. You can't put it all on him. I put it most of it on him, but because he broke the tie supposedly, but the city reps, they need to take some of the blame.
Absolutely. And in another forum, Mayor Mario was like, it astounds me that that we have some candidates that would break the law, and we're not trying to break the law, but we need to stand up for our citizens. And if we're not seeing something that just doesn't gel with what comes down from the Texas AG, then we needed him, and we still need him to stand up and speak for us, because I mean, it's just unacceptable just to say, oh, well, this is out of my hands, we just have to take it, especially when like President Trump has said before, and at the very beginning, he's going to put it on the states to take care of themselves. Well, we need to be in communication with Governor Abbott and our Texas attorney, Attorney General, and we need to let them know, hey, this is not going to, we know our city better than they do, because they're 7 hours away, and they only come out here when there's devastating news, other than appointing our own to the Texas Supreme Court, which I thought was great. But I think our city council and city government could have done more, and I definitely think they should have at least come out with the zip codes a lot earlier, to give everybody a chance to say, okay, well, let's just kind of steer clear of that area just for a little while they get everything under control, and then we can get back in there to help local businesses, because we definitely need to support those right now.
Going back to the ballpark real quick, there, Mr. Zielsdorf. The ballpark actually, it was kind of a child of Miss Wilson. So we're going forward now to Mr. Tommy Gonzalez. What's your opinion on two things? Number one, the rate of pay that he gets is over $350,000, and then number two, should we have a city manager?
I always compare it to the phone game. When there's only two people on the line of communication, it's pretty clear and direct. But when you add more people, things change, the story changes, and you don't get the full picture. And I think that's what's happening with our city management, or city manager form of governance. We have our department heads, and they reply to the deputy managers, and then they reply to the city manager, and then he replies to the city council, and then the city council has to take his word for it. But I don't understand why we're paying two middlemen the same, or a way overpriced amount, an exaggerated amount, when we pay the departments of our heads very well, and they're supposed to be able to communicate to our city council directly, and then we can make a better judgment in that way. But as far as his as far as his contract is concerned, I would keep him on for the last 3 years that are on his contract, and I think it's 3 years, because I think if we got rid of him, through a vote, he would take all his money, and we wouldn't get anything in return. And I think that'd be an inefficiency in governance. And I think I know he's a quarterback, and so I know he's a team player. I know he's a team player, and I think if we just give him a better sense of leadership, I think he could really do a lot of wonderful things for our city.
But not every quarterback wins a Super Bowl.
Right there you go.
And however, are there any possibilities of being able to change? I mean, I know that his contract is set up the way it's set up, but are there any possibilities of changing it before he? I mean, everybody else took a freeze except him, and they said, well, that's because in his contract, if he, complies with whatever he has to do, he gets that raise. It's easy for me to just say, you didn't comply. Your attitude is poor, this and that. They could have easily prevented him from getting that $50,000 raise.
Absolutely. We would definitely look at his contract and try to amend as much as possible. I think, though, if we terminated him, he would still get that money. So, but that's
make him work till the end.
That's right.
Period.
You don't. We let off 400 plus employees. when they could have easily been used as either, community servants. They could have delivered food from food banks to people that aren't able to go out. They could have done a lot of things. They could have made sure everybody was okay. I mean, there was work to be done that those employees could have been doing, and I think it was a terrible decision to let them go. And I understand that they're trying to prepare us for next year's budget, and I get that, but they fired them in March, and it was kind of like, wow, thanks. Like,
exactly.
The city had already had a budget passed, so it's not like that current budget was affected, So I think it was a bad choice.
Mrs. Elder, we have a few minutes left. I do want to give you the opportunity to provide. I think on the bottom of our screen we put your Facebook page, but where can people contact you if they want to volunteer?
That would be the best place to reach out to me, is on my Facebook page. I answer everything as soon as possible. I have it on my phone, so that's the easiest way to get a hold of me without me, I guess, giving my phone number away, which I don't mind. I mean, I can always change it if
you get elected.
Well, my number is 915-329-1969. If anybody feels like reaching out, most of the volunteering that I would accept would just kind of just be sharing the word. I'm trying not to let a lot of people. I wouldn't want anybody to go out door knocking or going up to people personally, especially during this pandemic. I would hate for somebody to volunteer and then they get sick. And I definitely don't. I'm not asking for money because there's a lot of people. These are tight times and these are trying times, and you need all the resources you can have. So that's why I'm trying not to trying to accept any money or asking for any donations.
Give the number one more time.
915-329-1969.
All right.
So Zielsdorf, maybe one more question. When it comes to and I know this is a question you probably been asked 1,000 times on all the different forums, but two questions. Why would you want to do this kind of job with so much stress? That's my personal question. And I guess a common question is the streets. What can you talk about when it comes to the lack of infrastructure when it comes to the streets?
Sure. To answer why, I mean, I'm obviously crazy. No, I'm just playing. I'm used to being in stressful situations every day when I was at work on the fire department. So, I've been trained, to think quick on my feet, to know what to do that would bring the best results. And so, I give I take my hat off to Mayor Margo, during the August 3rd shootings. That must have been really hard for him to deal with. Fortunately, he had a lot of support, not just from the Department of Fire Department, but every other federal agency that showed up that we have in El Paso. I mean, they were all there to help support him, and I think he did the best that he could. And as far as this, so that's one of the reasons why I want to do it. I'm not scared of the stress. I can deal with that, pretty well. And yeah, I really, like I said, I saw a lot of inefficiencies within the city while I was in the city, and then when I was going to the city council meetings, and I think I could really help this city move forward to a future that we should already be living in.
Yeah, amen to that.
As far as the streets, I mean, it brings me back to the, living in the future that or going towards the future that we should be living in now. I think we should really tap into the pool of all the brain that we have here. I know a lot of people say we have a brain drain, but we also have a lot of students and young professionals that were never able to find a job, not because they weren't qualified, but because El Paso isn't the only city in America, and there's a lot of people out there vying for those occupants or those jobs. And so I would really reach into them and tap into their creative mindset and see what they can do. I have my own ideas. Like, I would love to rebuild our infrastructure into plastic roads, because we have an abundance of plastic on the planet. And I think we could, I mean, if anything, it's creating a lot more jobs for our citizens. And I think that would really help pull us out financially whenever this pandemic passes.
Amen to that. No, you're right. Before we go, Mr. Abel or Mr. Bautista, do you have any more questions for Mr. Zielsdorf?
No, just one real quick one. How are you going to deal with the tax burden that we have in El Paso?
Yeah, so that's huge, and I think Mayor Mario was trying to pitch that he fought against raising our taxes, but I mean, if you just go back 2 years ago, he was saying that the Central Appraisal District wasn't appraising our houses correctly and that we should be owing more. So I'm not sure which one what side he is on, but it's definitely going to be hard. We're definitely going to need as much funding as we can when we get out of this pandemic. But my major goal is to rebuild our city and rebuild our infrastructure to serve our city. While we might not be able to cut taxes, I feel like we should be getting more from the taxes that we're paying. And I definitely want to reach out to El Paso Electric and, work in agreement with them and maybe become their power generator, and really move our city towards a renewable infrastructure to, support El Paso Electric and who knows, maybe eventually as time goes by, we produce enough power to get a little bit of return on that investment from them. At the very least, we should move towards offsetting our prices, our electricity prices within the city, and then out among the public. If we're using our taxes to, build this infrastructure, then we should definitely get something out of that.
Yep, true.
So do I get my last question, George?
Yes, of course, Mr. Abel.
Listen, Calvin, there's talk and there's already pre-planning for redoing I-10 in the central part of town. And I know engineers think they're all that, but I think they must have been smoking something when they engineered what they're trying to put out and knock out half of central El Paso because they want to do a big, huge roundabout and I don't know what the hell else. But what are your thoughts on that?
If elected mayor, I'm definitely going to reach out to TxDOT and say, can we please just build a highway that circumvents El Paso? We're going to have to work with Fort Bliss to, hopefully, and on Fort Bliss, we could either build a tunnel or build a mound to have that highway go through so they don't have to, so there's no security problems. But I think if we did that and also built a rail line alongside that highway through Anthony Gap and straight to the Santa Teresa facility, I think that would really help ease not only traffic, but also the train traffic that goes through El Paso. And if, I'm always thinking forward, right? There's always going to be a reason why we want to do something. And I think if we did that, if we could strike a deal with Union Pacific, who knows, maybe we could rent or lease out those train tracks that are within the city, and we could move forward towards a light rail transit system to help, service the Northeast, the East, and then the Far East side. And I think that would really help alleviate traffic on our. And I-10 is falling apart, right? It's old.
Yeah, it is.
And I think that would help ease the stress on that infrastructure right there.
Yeah.
So that's my major.
I didn't know who you were, man. I didn't know who you were. I didn't even know that you were running, and I apologize for that. I try to stay on top of everything, but everyone's concentrating on the first four names. Well, actually, the first three names out of this five. So. Right. But I'm quite impressed with your background, and I want to encourage you that whatever happens this time to please put yourself out there again, because I think you're a very viable candidate. I think you're very knowledgeable, and of course, you come out of the leadership mill that is Cathedral High School. So congratulations.
Thank you, sir, and viva la Cate.
Well, folks, you're listening to No Vision Internet Radio with Mr. Jesus Bautista, our political contributor, Abel Rodriguez, and of course, our special guest, Mr. Calvin Zielsdorf. Before you leave, Mr. Zielsdorf, do you want to say anything?
Sure. We're already in the midst of early voting, and that ends on October 30th, with Election Day being on November 3rd. And please vote for Calvin. I am number one on the ballot, so you won't even have to read the other names.
All right. Yeah.
Abel.
Yes.
Abel, do me a favor, please. Do me a favor.
Yes.
This end the show like you used to end your show.
Oh, well, that was all for today here on the George Network. And as I like to say to everybody in our pueblo, our pueblo of El Paso Juarez. Te guacho, raza. See you next week.
See you later. Thank you.